at it. What was the second?
The second link is to the tongue show, which is like the astrology chart in America, except it's the Asian astrology chart. And so it's not more comprehensive when it comes to things, but you have to know a lot more about the Asian philosophy and why they would look at things this way. And so I figured I'd include it so you guys could have a look at it. It is a more rudimentary one. There's a lot of people that they kind of show you that, and then they write up a whole big long article about the whole purpose and the definition and what that means and why it's this way and why it's that way. But it's kind of fun to look at the chart from day to day and go, oh, well, you know, today would be a cautious day, or today would be a fruitful day, or today could be you know, and then you read from the other people a little more in-depth understanding of it, and it's a lot of fun. So we're just going over the second link in the email, which is the tongue show.
Oh yeah.
And there's, as I was telling them, that's the rudimentary chart. That's kind of like the American thing. Here, you know, when you really get into people that do a lot of quote unquote astrology from the Chinese philosophy, it's much deeper, it's much bigger, it's much broader. And so they actually write big, long dissertations around the day. These are the readings, these are the pillars, these are the fortune numbers, this is the directions, you know, and that's what these mean, and this is how you apply them, blah, 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 blah. So there's a lot more to it.
No, thank you.
It's just interesting. And so I find it quite fascinating, because my mom was big on astrology and star charts, and she did our charts when we were young. And you really look at it, and it's like, well, you know, this is so generic it could fit anybody. But then you take two of them and you compare them, and they really are vastly different. You know, it's like, well, my sister is this chart and I'm this chart. You know, they're both very generic, but they're really different. Hers are based in this philosophy, and that's where she is, and mine is based in this perspective. Sorry, not philosophy, perspective, and that's the way I see things. And so it's like, the guy's just kind of scary. Is this, you know, is this me? Is this my, you know, my ability to turn and look at it or not? And so when I, you know, started following feng shui and Lu Ming and more of the Taoist interpretations of early Asian philosophy, you really start seeing these really big lines that connect all these things together. You know, and again, you kind of go, okay, well, is this just me? Am I just making this up? But then you see so many other people and all their connections to it, and it's like, okay, well, so it's got to mean something, you know. And so I thought it would be fun to include it this time around.
Yeah. Well, and I, you know, after last week, after our class, I went and I thought, well, you know, because I'm supposed to be You're the Rat, but I'm really not a rat per se in the personality-wise. I came up, they said, well, you know, put in your birth day, the whole date in. So there's one for the day and the month, the day, and the year. And they called me a red dog.
A red dog.
A red dog rat?
Yeah, because I was born on a white rat year. Does that make sense at all?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I looked at that, and I looked at that thing this morning, and I'm like, I'm lost. Am I a rat? Am I a dog? Am I white? Am I red? You know, anyhow.
yeah, so
It's like the ascendants and, you know, the ascending and descending stuff in Western astrology.
Yes.
The time you were born makes a difference.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah, so and just to sidetrack the conversation and to follow along yours there,
Sorry.
it's like looking at a pyramid upside down, right?
Oh.
Goes like this, right? This is the day you were born, right? It's set. There is nothing that can change that. Bang, it's the point where everything starts. But then it goes out from there. So depending on where you were born, that's the next level, and there's a broad possibility of changes. And then and
Layer,
right? And so each layer gets broader because the possibilities get bigger, right? And a lot of people say that. If you're on a street and you're looking for an address, this is really easy, even if you just have the numbers, right? If all I know is it's 305. I'm on the street, 305, easy to find. right? If I'm in a quadrant, which is a set of 4 blocks, and all I've got is 305, I could be here for a while. Hello? Yeah, I'm looking for, okay. Oh, yeah, I'm looking for, it takes a little while to find it. Well, move that out to a city like San Francisco, you need a lot more than just 305. You're going to be there for days trying to figure out where things are. And that's kind of this whole perspective, right? We aren't just the day we were born. We were the food we ate when our mom was pregnant, right? And we're the food that she gave us after birth, and where we were, and how we moved, and what happened, what kind of oxygen we were breathing. I mean, it just starts getting really, really crazy. And so they really just kind of fine-tune it down to, okay, this is the general concept. You've got to know who you are based on this philosophy, and then you can plug yourself into it, right? So you kind of already have to have had some understanding or been born into the system, which is why it's really, really funny when we listen to Lu Ming, because he was born into the system, and he talks about it as you Westerners. I tell you tea is good, and you're drinking tea all day. It's like, no, tea is good, just have a cup. It's okay, And so there's that whole thing about he was raised in it, he really understands it. So when somebody says, well, this is the fortuitous or disconnected direction, today's is west, right? And west is that way. And so if I was to do physical labor today, east is that way, so west. If we were physical labor today, you wouldn't want to do it this way. You would hurt your back, or your leg, or your arm, or something. Something would hurt. So turn this way. Just don't face west, And it's like, what does that make sense? I mean, I don't know. But it seems to, over all these years, that you don't plant on this day. You plant tomorrow. So you wait today and you plant tomorrow. So there's a bunch of those kinds of things that are just ingrained in their society. They were raised on looking at the astrology chart, looking at the Dong Shao kind of book, like we today look at the Farmer's Almanac and go, oh yeah, today's not a good day to plant tomatoes, but it's a good day for potatoes. We're gonna go plant potatoes. And so it's just something to follow that kind of keeps us in tune with the way that the whole society has gone along. I always liken it to, you always go to the store on Wednesday because you get a discount if you're over 55 or you're over 60, right?
Trying to get rid of product.
So there's this really funny third perspective, and that is, if I'm in that parking lot on Wednesday, how many old folks am I going to see?
Quite a few.
So can I write that down in a book as a guarantee? Pretty much every Wednesday, there's going to be a whole lot of old folks on the road going to that place. And so this kind of that, so this is kind of that idea blown out to its extreme over thousands of years, knowing, well, we know that this is going to happen in the winter. We know this is going to happen in the springtime. We know this is going to happen in the summertime. And so we can predict these things need to happen at these periods of time during these, these things. Anyway, so I find it just fascinating. It's quite humorous. So the exercises today, we're moving from internal to external. We're at the end of the doing something silly period, which was actually like 4 weeks or 3 weeks or something. I forget the actual number. But it was one moon cycle. And so now the moon cycle is changing. We're going to move into the next one. But walking backwards is still very advantageous, not just all the time, but just do it every once in a while. Turn around and walk backwards. It's really good for you. It's kind of like spinning around in one direction, getting dizzy, and then spinning the other direction to unwind yourself. For some reason, walking backwards helps to back you out of things you may have gotten into. This kind of this kind of goes into that same whole philosophy of it just seems to work. So so they recommend it. It's a recommendation. letting your hair down, not auspicious anymore, so you want to stand your ground. Do you know what let your hair down is? Did we talk about that last week? No? Ranking in the Asian societies was the length of your queue, how long your hair was, right? And you measured it by the top knot, right? So you take all your hair, you top knot your hair, and then they know from there to where your hair is how long your queue is. And so when they say let your hair down, you take out the top knot and you let your hair down. The reason for that is because if you don't have the top knot on, you don't judge. That person is like if I'm the teacher in the class, I'm the master, I have my top knot, you know how great a master I am by the length of the hair from the top knot down. If I don't have my top knot on, I'm not the master today. Right?
Okay.
And so you go to a party, right? And the only person with a top knot on is the president. Nobody else has the top knot up. Because just no judging, right? There's no thing. But that same thing happens the other direction. Now we're moving into the new moon. You put the top knot back in. Because now you are who you are supposed to be. You have your foundation, your substance, your purpose, your direction, all return. When you take the top knot out, all that just kind of goes away and you're just goofy for a couple of weeks and then everybody has a great time and then you put the top knot back and everybody's back up, you know, everything's back to normal.
Okay.
So part of that is what we were talking about in the email, and that is that whole idea of guidance, foundation, you know, purpose. Right now we got that in our readings is remembering what was the plan. Because as the energy moves from yin to yang, our senses open up and our eyes open up and all of a sudden we can see all these really cool things again and we get lost. We immediately think, oh, I want one of those, I want one of those, and I want 5 of those, and I got one of those. And so, exactly, so we need to remember at this time when we put the top knot back on, right, and regain our sensibility, we also need to remember, okay, what was the purpose, what's the plan, where was I, and what do I need to do next? Not just, ooh, I want one of those, I want one of those, right? We need to kind of spread out that whole thing and let it stay out there, come back, find what you were doing and what's next in the goal. So last week we talked about foundation, so laying the foundation, right? That was a big part of kind of moving from one to the next, is knowing, okay, is the foundation done? Is it dry? Can I start putting boards on there and building a house? Well, it's not dry enough yet. You know, something. You need to know where you are in the plan. Otherwise, you start building too fast, foundation falls apart, house falls down, right? You gotta have that. So what we're doing is we're moving from this whole concept of rolling the energy inside the body and trying to feel that come out, to actually feeling it out on the skin almost. You know, it's coming out into the arms and into the legs. So we're feeling that now. We're feeling the strength more as a physical strength instead of this internal energy that I can feel it kind of rolling in my body. Well, now I can actually feel in my arms are getting full. My shoulders are starting to get fuller. And with that, we start getting sudden cramps. Like, you know, showering or something and you turn your head, so, oh, wow, where did that come from? You know, I didn't do anything. You don't have to. Last year we talked about the same thing. This is just the time of year where you just kind of get cramps. It's like, gosh, where did this cramp come from? You know, it's because the energy is moving from inside, or internal to external, not really inside to outside, from internal to external. And so massage is really good this time of year, probably for the next 2 or 3 months. Stretching, of course, because that's, whatchamacallit? See, I can't remember the word. It's that time of year for me. It's metaphorical, right? The stretching is both mentally and physically. And so if you stretch physically, you're stretching mentally, right? And we need to do both this time of year. Like I said, everything's opening up, our senses are picking up, our desires start to go through the roof because of spring. And it's kind of like, whoa, slow down, one step at a time. Well, the strength is there. We want a lasting strength. And if we want lasting strength, we have to build slowly. Just like on building a house or building anything really. Trees don't grow to 100 feet tall in a night. They take years and years and years to do that. So it's this the slow blossoming, the slow growth is what builds the strength that we're going to be dependent on for summer in this case, because we're talking on the year cycle, not on the life cycle. So let's take a look at the 3 gates Gung. So when we talk about the 3 gates Gung, what we usually talk about is the gate at the feet, the gate at the waist, and the gate in the chest. So these are independent of the 3 primary gates of the Mingmen and the this is gonna be like that today. Dantian. So the Dantian and the Mingmen, right, are in this location, and we always talk about it being in this location. Well, this is actually the middle. There's an upper, a middle, and a lower, right? And that's different than the 3 gates of the 3-gate Gung. The 3 gates: feet, the waist, and the chest. So these 2 are very similar, but it's slightly higher, not lower. So it's more at the top. But this one's just below the belly button, which is the same as the middle Dantian, because it's like the pinpoint where everything connects through the middle. Everything connects there, and so that one's always there. So when we bend our knees and relax the body into our standing position, and we roll the feet out, and then roll the feet in, we talk about it being a gate, like a gate into the yard, right? When you open the gate, you can move in and out of the yard. When you close the gate, you can't move in and out of the yard. It's kind of like that. It's very similar to that. But the gate moves both directions. So it doesn't just open out, it opens in. And so it swings. And so I'm actually moving from a point in the middle where there's no movement to a point on the outside where there's circulation, and a point on the inside when there's circulation. And the circulation can be in either direction, right? So far so good? Okay, waist and top, same thing. It's a swinging gate. Circulation happens when it's either all the way open or all the way open. When it's closed, in the middle is when you're stagnant. And so that's kind of contraindicated for a lot of people because, lay still all night. How is the energy flowing? It's not that specific, all right? It's more generic. It's more what we want to use to imagine or inspire ourselves or whatever is just these ideas. Yeah, the energy is flowing all the time. When you do these, it can stimulate more energy to flow. And so if you're lying in bed, no, you don't want to do that. It'll keep you awake all night. So that's kind of this gray area concept of how the gates move. So when we're standing in the standing position and in a relaxed position, and we roll the feet out, we want to feel the energy circulating between the feet and the legs. And then arch the back slightly and feel the energy circulating between the legs and the waist, or the legs and the abdomen. And then open the chest, and we want to feel the circulation between the abdomen and the top of the head, or the Bai Hui point, which is actually the connection to the universal Chi. And so we're usually using this energy from the terrestrial Chi through the 3 gates all the way to connect to the universal Chi through the Bai Hui point. And so let's try that a couple of times. So when we did this like a month ago and we did the 3 gates, it felt very stiff to me. And it felt, I mean, it's cold in here, but it felt cooling. It didn't feel warming. Now it feels a lot more open and a lot more energy seems to be naturally just moving into the body, and the warmth kind of happens right away. So that's a big point of view when we start looking at how the different seasons affect the energy in the body, how that energy influences our bodies, and of course, you know, where we are in the cycle. Just by standing here, I can kind of tell you, oh yeah, well, right here in spring, we must be, because I can feel the energy move. Okay, so the second one I wanted to work on was the first moving gong, because that one opens up the rest of the body. Ironically, the 3 gates gong opens up the body, where the first moving gong opens up the spirit body, because it takes you out of balance with the spirit body, or the physical body, and allows you to roll the energy around the spirit body. So therefore, it's doing the same kind of opening and closing with the energy, only now we're moving from the physical body to the physical spiritual body and connecting the two of them together. So go ahead and try that a couple of times. So how did that one feel? It's a little different. And it's not the same as it was in the wintertime. All of a sudden, this flushing changes. We feel it differently in the body. It's opening up the body's channels differently now. We're actually connecting to a bigger channel, which is kind of why this moving around the feet and rolling the body through the energy plane generates more energy for the whole system, you know, the 3 spirit bodies in total. But it opens up those channels. The problem is that energy is like bounding up, right? Just like the plants are starting to spring out of the ground. Well, they're springing out everywhere. It's not just the one I planted. They're coming up all over the place. And so that energy is coming through the body. Well, it's coming through and just kind of going out all over, which is why it's opened up our senses. It opens up our energy for our desires and our emotions and all those kinds of things all just start to, you know, just open up. And so we need to use the belt gong, which is the next one we want to talk about, because the belt gong helps to control the 3 primary channels in the body, and that stabilizes the emotions, improves circulation to the heart and to the lungs. And so let's take a look at that one. Now remember, this one, it starts on both feet are to one side, and I'm going to move to the other side by rolling both of my feet to the other side. And then as I bring my hands out to go around the back, I go backwards and lean on my heels and come across. And come out to the toes to come across the front. And this is usually exhale, but doesn't have to be. This is usually inhale. And exhale. Different? More of the same?
I did it wrong, so it's confusing.
Good point.
I'm getting back and I'm going the wrong way.
That's right.
Exhaling.
If I'm out here, I'm in the back and I'm exhaling. And if I'm here, I'm on my toes and I'm inhaling. but it's not, it's not set in stone, as I've said before. A lot of the movements are about doing the movement, and they'll give you indicators. So if you're doing it and you get lost, there's something in there you need to work on. There's something, and it's not just memory, right? It's probably a connection to something, and that's why we talk so much in feng shui, in the dong shao, and in the Chi Gung exercises, that it's connecting the spirit body to the physical body, and if there's something wrong in the physical body, the spirit body will tell you. It kind of points it out, And so it's figuring out how you do that, because we weren't raised in that, or I wasn't raised in that, and so it's kind of figuring, okay, well, so what does that mean? You almost have to go to a practitioner and say, okay, when I do this exercise, this happens. Oh yeah, here, take these herbs, and because they know it. And it's, for us, it's just kind of, we're learning this stuff and playing with the stuff. Okay, so the Du Chi exercise, last week we kind of did just kind of bouncing around. Well, we're returning to the regular Du Chi now. We're not doing the crazy loose Du Chi, but we really want to feel the bouncing energy in the part of the body where the hands are. So I know we've talked about this once before, but of course it's been a while, and so let's take a look at it. When my hands are down here and I'm bouncing the ball, I want to feel it down here. I want to feel it in my legs. I want to feel my legs bouncing more than I want to feel my stomach bouncing. And when I'm in the middle and I'm bouncing it, I want to feel it more right in here. Even though I can feel my legs, I want to feel it in the body. Right? And then when I'm up here, I want to feel it in my head. And I know this is difficult for a lot of people, but we actually want to feel it up here, from the upper chest to above the head. Right? You want to kind of get that feeling that the energy is moving up here. This relates a lot to the way when you see people doing standing meditations or Chi Gungs. They have their hands like this, they have their hands like this, they have their hands like this, they have their hands like that. Well, the hands provide an energy connection to the body. So when I'm standing like this, I'm feeling the energy here. When I'm standing like this, I'm feeling the energy here. When I'm standing like this, I'm feeling the energy here, the third eye. If I'm standing like this, I'm pressing energy, right? I'm pressing the energy in both directions away of the pillar, and so you feel it in the pillar. It's in the center down the spine. So this is a great elongation exercise. It's not feeling the weight and being crushed by it, but extending the spine, extending the neck, and pushing the energy up through the body. Mind you, my legs are still bent, right? My hips are turned in slightly, and so I'm elongating the spine. And then this one you can close the same way as Quan Chi Gung, the closing exercise, down the front, or you can do the reverse, which is to come down underneath and then shore up. And that one it comes up this way. We've done some before. It was lifting the moon or raising the moon. And so those are really, really good exercises.
You go like this?
Yeah, you carry the moon up, and then just as it passes where your wrists won't go that way anymore, you flip it over and carry it up to the top. And then come under and lift it this way, and come up as a lift, and then flip it over and press up, and then come down. And that one's specifically raising the moon or something like that, where if you just do it this way and then come down in front, it's more of just the clearing exercise. You're just doing the stabilizing exercise, and then you're closing straight down in front. So it has that same meaning. A lot more is our intention, right? And I keep reverting to that. It's really, really, these are just fanciful exercises designed by somebody that have worked for 1,000-something years, but it's really a matter of your intention. My dad and I had a conversation not too long ago, and we both kind of came to the same meaning, and that is gosh, we know all the possibilities of robbing a bank. We know all the possibilities of wrecking a car. We know all the possibilities of, deterring somebody from doing the right thing. So why doesn't that guide us? Why are we doing good things all the time? And why are we reflecting on those other things and deciding to do something differently to help deter that? It's from our choice. It's our intention, right? It's what we are intending to do. And so we've really got to kind of look at those in a bigger picture. It's not what we do and what we know. It's the intention that creates what we do and what we know. Kind of, two peas in a pod. All right, we're way over time again. Darn. So any questions about all the fun stuff today? Yeah. So if you've been playing with these kinds of exercises at home, you're just kind of rolling through the waist and the legs and trying to get the energy to move, you can start expanding more with the chest. So inhale, and then exhale, and then inhale, and exhale. So we're really moving more into the body instead of this little tiny ball of intention rolling through the body. Not that those still aren't good exercises to do. It's just that the energy is moving out a little bit bigger. We try not to get too big. Those will come in spring and fall, or spring and summer, and we'll do those. Okay? Any last thoughts or questions? All right, let's go ahead and do the 3 breaths of standing, and then we'll do the closing exercise 3 times, Chi Gung. Up, inhale, rise up. Take a breath with the heart and lungs. Take a breath with the dantian and the lung. Take a breath at the bottom of the feet, bubbling spring point. And take a couple short breaths. Feel the connection between the points, down through the body. When you're ready, turn the palms out, inhale, rise up. Bubbling spring points, bottoms of the feet. Feel the energy connecting down into the ground, like roots from a tree. Feel that energy rise up to the top of the head, the right waypoint, with a small